You're listening to Benita Tankard with Leaders in Transformation right here on WESL Radio 1490. And we are coming to you from Nashville's Music City in Tennessee. We are excited about having our special guest, Stacey Owens-Howard, joining us from Jacksonville, North Carolina. She is an award-winning educator, trainer, and entrepreneur. Stacey, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Now, Stacey, you are doing some great things. Tell me, what values and experiences help propel you into being the leader that you are in education?
My desire to lead by love, it is the greatest value that has molded me into the leader that I am today. See, 1 Corinthians tells us that love is patient, it's kind, and does not envy, and it's not boastful, it's not conceited, it doesn't act improperly, it's not selfish nor provoked, and it doesn't keep a record of wrongdoing. And for the population of children that I serve and staff that I work with, I believe that love has to encompass all of that. I have to have patience for working with the population that I serve and so forth. And so I would say my value is based off of that concept of love, and how do I project that onto others, and then how do I pull that also out of others. In terms of my experiences that propelled me to become the leader that I am in education, that started back when I was in high school, and I had this one teacher that told me that I actually wasn't smart enough to attend college because of my grandmother's dialect. Before working with this teacher in this 11th grade English class, I felt that I was a good writer. I felt that I was a good speaker, but he felt and thought different. And so he tried to discourage me from going to college and wanted to encourage me instead to do some type of trade school or thinking about something different. And that feeling that you get from having one person trying to attempt to determine your destiny, that was like the start for me of my quest of becoming. I was a first-generational college student, the first person in my family to go to college. So I knew at that point that I wanted to do something that was going to be different and provide a different experience for children than what was provided for me at that time.
Well, we're sure glad you didn't listen to that instructor. And, man, you have a big heart, because it takes a big heart to work with our young people today. Listen, I've reviewed your bio, and you have had great accomplishments in education. You're a National Board Certified Teacher. You obtained Teacher of the Year in 1998 and was the 2000 state-level finalist for the Presidential Award for Elementary Teaching in Math and Science. You also have your master's degree from North Carolina Central University. You have a postgraduate certification in leadership and accountability and a postgraduate certification in curriculum and instruction from Capella University. And now I hear you're working on your doctorate. Oh, that's commendable. You know, when preparation meets opportunity, that is when success begins. Tell me, when did you recognize that you had a passion for education? Who were some of your mentors?
I knew I wanted to become a teacher in the 5th grade. That was the year that I actually was inspired by the passion and care and love that was shown to me by my 5th grade teacher. And it was just the simple things that she did. She used to encourage me to stay behind after school. This is during a time when after school training and learning wasn't really prevalent. But she knew that I was struggling in math, so she would invite me to stay after, and she would get permission from my mom to allow me to stay after school so she can provide that additional help. And during that time, my mother did not drive. She did not have transportation. So the teacher offered to provide that transportation for me to get back and forth to these tutoring sessions. And so she showed me, she was one of the first teachers that showed me that human side of teaching, to show that you can care for your students. And that inspired me to want to become and have that passion for providing education for others. Teachers are so relationships, student-teacher relationships are so important. And as a teacher, we have that opportunity to either create relationships that are going to be assets or relationships that are going to be liabilities. So my fifth grade teacher, she created a relationship with me that was an asset. It made me want to even think about the possibility of going to college and changing my life trajectory. My 11th grade teacher, though, that person created, I would say, a relationship with me that was a liability that I actually ended up carrying with me during my first few years at North Carolina Central University. I ended the first semester with a GPA of 1.9, and I thought, being that no one else had gone to college in my family, I didn't really have a model to look at her, and I thought, maybe he was right. Maybe this is not what I'm supposed to do. But my mother encouraged me to stay another semester, and she wanted me to, at least complete the first year. And then if I didn't have any change, she said, then we can think about something different. And so I'm so glad that she encouraged me to stay the course because I had the opportunity then to meet an English teacher at North Carolina Central University that rekindled my passion and inspired me that the reason of why I wanted to do this for others, because she came in and had to undo some of those liabilities and that collateral damage that I brought with me to campus. And that started the track for me knowing that, okay, this is something that I could do. And in terms of mentors, let's see. I have actually been so fortunate with mentors because God, over the years, has placed some wonderful people in my life. It's almost like at the onset of every transition for me, as I was transitioning from one stage to the next, it was a person that was placed there to help prepare me for what was to come. So just to name a few, Dr. Norman Sermon Boyd, Walter Anderson, Dr. Jesse Jackson III, and Life. Those are, I would say, my main four mentors that God placed before me to help prepare me for those next levels of success. They were all educators. Dr. Jackson, he came in to help with a lot of the training that we was doing with staff just to help me understand who I was and what I was doing and how I was handling at that entrepreneurial stage. And then on Life, he came in and he helped me to understand the importance of telling my story because I have done so much, but I just do. I don't really tell what I do. And so he's real integral in helping me to tell my story. So I've been blessed with a lot of mentors along the way, actually.
That sounds great. You have been, I'm sure you're being very encouraging to others that are facing obstacles like the ones that you face. Now, I understand that you began a charter school called Z.E.C.A. Tell me, what prompted you to start Z.E.C.A, and what is the mission and what's been the impact of your community initiative and school?
So you mentioned all the wonderful things, my accomplishments in education. So I started this journey wanting to be a teacher, and I became a teacher, and I was a really good teacher. And then I had my own children, and my son Z.E.C.A, when I had Z.E.C.A and he started the public school system, he went through public school. You're in school for 13 years, and I don't think that you should go to school for 13 years and only be able to say that out of those 13 years, only 2 of those years were positive years for you. And with Z.E.C.A, that's exactly what happened. He was from birth, he was always different, always unique. He was very intelligent, and I'm not just saying that because he was my son, but he was very intelligent. He had a way with words, and he loved music. He can learn anything if you put it to a tune. But unfortunately, as he was going through the public school system, people didn't see his uniqueness. They didn't see his gifts and talents. They saw what they labeled, I'll say, his behaviors as ADHD and ODD and even IED, which is intermittent explosive disorder. And so we struggled all his entire school year because of that. And it troubled me because as an educator myself, I had firsthand knowledge of how the educational system can devalue and dismiss populations of marginalized students. And it was happening in front of me with my own child. In spite of the fact that I was going to work every day doing some wonderful, great things for students of color and students in rural communities and at-risk students, the same wasn't being reciprocated for my son. And so God gave me the vision to create this place then, So if it wasn't there, create it. And I thought at that time I was young. I was just getting into teaching, and I had a dream. And in that dream, the entire vision was laid out. I woke up from the dream, and I remember around 1 o'clock in the morning, and I called my mom, and she told me, she was like, you know what, get a piece of paper and write everything you saw down. And I did. It was like what I saw in my dream was everything written on slates of like rock slates. And she was like, write down everything you saw. And I did. And when I wrote it down, I thought, I know this is not what you want me to do. Little old me, I'm just teaching. I don't have any money. So I took the thing that I wrote, the vision that I wrote, and I threw it in the top of the closet, and I didn't think about it anymore, actually. And it wasn't until about 7 years later that I was working as an educational specialist for Smart Start, and I was having to deal with 3 and 4 year olds getting kicked out of child care because of their behaviors. And no one wanted to take the opportunity to teach the expected behavior. Behaviors are not innate. You're not born knowing how to behave. You're taught that. And no one wanted to teach those students. They just wanted to throw them out. And I was having a conversation with a behavior specialist that I had brought in to do some training with me. And she told me, she said, well, you already have all the answers. In her conversation with me at that time, it was as if she knew about what I had put in the top of the closet. And I hadn't told anybody but my mother, and it had been there for 5 years. And so, long story short, after the conversation with that young lady, she said, well, you know what? I shared with her about my vision that I wrote, and she said, well, let's name it. And so we took the first few letters of my son's name, and that's how Z.E.C.A comes from Z.E.C.A. We took those first few letters of his name and created Z.E.C.A, which stands for 0 to 18 Education Concept Academy. And so he was my motivation, but God was my director. And so it's just better to just be obedient and to make that sacrifice. And I just one day decided, I'm going to take a chance and just do what I was told to do and see what it does for children and for educators. And that's how I became an entrepreneur.
Wow. That's an interesting story. I just love how God will download his purpose, his plan, his vision into our hearts. Yeah. And then it's up to us to write the vision and to follow after the vision. So I heard you mention heart, the word heart, but you also have an initiative called Heart. What is the significance of self-care for cultural sensitivity training for educators?
So Heart, that initiative came because, after I started the charter school didn't start initially. I started a nonprofit. Z.E.C.A 0 to 18 Concepts Academy is a nonprofit, and we were running. I thought, how I was going to fund this, and God blessed us the first year to get a $50,000 summer program grant, and we ran that summer program. And by the end of the summer, another grant came through for us to be able to do after-school care for 4 years. So the first 4 years of this initiative, I started out doing after-school care. And then I thought when we were coming up on our last year, I was seeing in that time when I was running after school, I was hearing more stories that was mirroring what had happened to me in school and what happened with my son. And I thought, I only have a little impact with students when I only deal with them after school, and then I got to send them back to the larger setting. And so by the end of that final year of the after school, we was blessed to receive the funding and the approval to open as the charter school, and that's how Z.E.C.A, School of Arts and Technology, was birthed. And so, when I opened, I had in my vision that we were going to get kids that had a joy for, the arts, like Z.E.C.A. He was a rapper, he could sing, he could play music, he did all of that, and he connected it to the learning. And I thought we was creating that place that was going to be a space for kids to come in and, enhance their arts and technology. But in fact, what happened was I started getting kids that just was looking for an alternative choice, a school choice. And so because they were on track to being sent to the district's alternative school. And so we sort of became the alternative to the alternative school. We was that stop that kids would come to in hopes that they would be turned around from being suspended from school. Their academics were behind. They were 2 and 3 years behind academically. They were being suspended for mediocre type things, and they just didn't have a love of learning, and their parents was looking for that space that can help with that. And so I had to pause and say, well, the arts and technology is great and it's important and it's good for that population, but I first have to deal with these issues that was being coming to the table, and that's how HEART was birthed, which stands for How to Educate African American Students Regardless of Trauma. And I had to create that because as I was in my first few years, my staff that I had in place, and I didn't know any better at that time, but my staff was burning out so fast and they was turning over. It was challenging to work with a population that had such issues that we had. And so then I said, well, it's not really being taught in the teacher preparation programs, so let's start this HEART initiative, and then just let's start doing conferences so I can train my teachers, but I will also open this up to other educators across the world because I know this issue is greater than Z.E.C.A, and that's how we started the initiative called HEART.
Wow. Well, there was something special that we talked about that you do for your teachers. Like you have a treadmill on campus. You have, I guess, time out for the teachers. Can you tell us a little bit about the unique things that you do on the campus of your school for your instructors?
Yes, so as time evolved and I was dealing with, understanding the students that I was serving, I started also seeing that, my teachers, what was causing this burnout, right? Because the reasons that they were given for leaving or quitting or whatever, like they had the heart to do what they were trying to do, but they didn't have the heart. And so as I started looking at that and I started working with Dr. Jackson and just learning more and more about the population that we were in and the type of person that it would take, it started being revealed to me that in education, we spend a lot of time talking about the mental well-being of students. They're always telling you to check in on that social and emotional aspect of students, but you hear very little conversation, especially pre-pandemic. You're starting to hear more of it now, but pre-pandemic, you did not hear a lot of conversation in education where you said, let's check on the teachers' well-being, mental well-being, and their mental health. That was taboo. You came to work, you taught, you did what you were supposed to do, and you left your problems, if you had any, at the door. But for me, the teachers that were coming to me, that God was placing in front of me, I was finding that when they were working with the students, their issues will bubble over, and their issues can be anywhere from finance. It can be their family issues. It can be stress. It can be depression. A lot of them was coming in on pills, for depression and so forth. And so I was like, Lord, I wasn't expecting to work with the adults. I thought this lesson was from Z.E.C.A and was for kids. But I found out more that I had to look at it from the teacher aspect too. So we started thinking of what can I do from that aspect. So we wanted to make an environment that was going to be conducive and open so that you didn't have to come here and leave your problem at the door. Now, you still have to carry your water. You have to carry your own weight, and you have to do the job that you are hired to do and that you are the professional for doing. But I wanted to have that place where it was open for you to come in and have those conversations and deal with it openly so that the traumas from my students would not flush your trauma or bubble your traumas over. So if you had daddy issues or mama issues or financial issues as educators, we needed to flush that out so that you can have something to pour from. So yes, we created things on site like a reset room where it has massage chairs and the waterfall music, soft music, the lighting, so that during the day on teacher planning, if you feel stressed, overwhelmed, tired, whatever, during their planning, while they're on the clock, they can go into the reset room and reset. And nobody is looking like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You just slow it down. We have meditation. We meditate first thing in the morning for everybody, students and staff. We put a treadmill in the teacher's lounge because we want our teachers to be balanced spiritually, physically, and mentally. So we put the treadmill in the lounge. I hired a culture consultant. Everybody, when they hear about my culture consultant, that's not a typical position that you see in the school system, but I have a culture consultant, and he's a great motivational speaker first by trade, but he's on site every day to help teachers understand not only the culture of the students, but your culture, your well-being, your check-in. I brought in a wellness coach who I paid for teachers if you needed to have one-on-one sessions with the wellness coach. They were given that opportunity as well. But I didn't want you to leave your problems at the door because they're going to come in with you, and at the end of the day, you're going to take them home with you. But I need you to deal with your problems, so that you can stay balanced and you can stay stable. And here's the resources to help you do that so that you can be your best for the students, because that's what the students deserve, is the best of any adult that goes before them.
You're listening to Benita Tinker with Leaders in Transformation on WESL Radio 1490. Thank you for tuning in. If you would like to hear more shows like this, consider becoming a sponsor. For more information, email info@allgospelthings.com or call our executive producer, Ricky Allen, at 760-712-9957. Now, Stacy, you have quite a unique model. Have you considered duplicating your model or maybe taking it around to other districts, school districts around the U.S.?
Duplication is part of my long-term plan and goals. I often say, when I get to feel that the model is perfected, then I would like to take Z.E.C.A and have Z.E.C.A School of Arts and Technology in other states and so forth. I also want to have Z.E.C.A for Tots, where we will have a child care center that will start with the arts and technologies and that heavy emphasis on that social and emotional well-being so that kids would be able to transition from birth to 5 and then straight into the charter school setting. So, yes, I do want to model or duplicate this model across the U.S. I'm still working on developing and collecting research. I've moved into that area and space in my life as I'm working on this PhD. I'm actually writing my dissertation right now, and the focus of my dissertation is on student-teacher relationships because I know that is key for disadvantaged students. And so as I continue that process and get my data and research collected and together, yes, I do want to put a model in place that it can go to other areas and be duplicated.
Yes. I mean, your program is needed everywhere. I can't think of a school district that doesn't need a model that will help keep our kids in school and out of jail, and help our instructors, especially with the stress that they are now experiencing with not only COVID, but all kinds of natural disasters and violence in our communities. Please tell me about some of your programs and how our listeners, corporations, and businesses can partner with you to help positively impact the minds of children and maximize the preparation of educators.
So, of course, we're always looking for any financial partners that can help with our initiatives. We are an independent charter school which means I'm not connected to any EMO. Very small, so that we don't have like the community support that I would say that we necessarily need. So we're always looking for grants and funding from outside to help make us stronger. But the other thing that we really push here is because we wanted to make sure that as our kids attend Z.E.C.A, in order for them to be academically successful, we wanted to eliminate as many of anything of distractions that we would call distractions to them. So we looked at the Maslow's hierarchy of need, and we decided, of course, for kids to get to that point where they can just reflect on the arts and reflect on their self-growth, that they had to have their basic needs met. So we put things in place like a pantry. In our pantry, we give out food every Friday. We partner with a community agency already to give out food bags for the kids for the weekend. Then we have the pantry that has things like washing powder, soap, clothing. North Carolina Central has been great in the past for their students collecting brand new clothing items and shoes and toys and so forth. And we put those things in the store, and as we are working with our kids with what we call the Z.E.C.A way, they get to earn points. And as they earn those points, they get to spend their points in the store on the materials that was donated. And then we also train our parents. So when we have our family workshops, we give our families who attend, we give them what we call Z.E.C.A bucks. We feed them for coming, we do child care, and then we give them Z.E.C.A fake money. And we open the store up so you can take your Z.E.C.A money and go in and buy toilet paper and washing powder and items for your home, towels and things like that, whatever is donated. And that is an incentive so that we can, one, encourage our families to stay connected to the children, because it is a triangular effort. It takes not just my staff, it also takes parents, it takes the students, it takes all three aspects to come together to make this change work and to change these mindsets. And so we put a lot of stuff in place to help with that. And I would say another final way that corporations and businesses can help is with the conferences. We're doing the Heart Conference this year again, and we're also on January 15th through the 17th, Martin Luther King's birthday weekend, we're doing our first annual Teacher Wellness Retreat and Conference. And that's a time for our teachers to come and just learn about being resilient and learn some strategies that they can use in the classroom, but it's also heavily based into a retreat field where they're going to learn about self-care and how to use exercise and yoga and those kind of things to help reset their mind and balance so that they can be resourceful for students. So sponsorships for our conferences, because right now we do our conferences totally ourselves with no sponsors, and we just take a little of nothing and that little mustard seed and turn it into as much as we can. So any kind of sponsorship will help as well.
It seems as though you've got everything covered when it comes to your solution to the issues that the parents, the teachers, the children, all of them are dealing with. And now you've got this conference. Is there a website? Do you have an email, a number? How can our listeners reach out to you to be a part of what you're doing?
Yes, so if you want to know everything Z.E.C.A, Creating Z, www.creatinz.com. That is the website that I put all my speaking engagements, my books, my conferences. You'll find that all housed there. If you want to learn more about our school, you can go to www.Z.E.C.A schoolofthearts.com. And you can see our mission and things like that about the school. And we're also, both Creating Z and Z.E.C.A is on all social media platforms. So you can, if you want real up-to-date things and events that are happening at the school, find us on Facebook and Instagram for either entity.
Great. Do you have any last words to say to educators and parents who are concerned about their children's education?
Yes, stay connected. stay involved. The world is changing, and you have to stay on top of it so you don't get left behind. So Zig Ziglar, he talks a lot about the 3 C's of life: choice, chance, and change. And you must make a choice to take a chance on your life, or you will never change.
You're listening to Benita Tankard with Leaders in Transformation on WESL Radio 1490. Thank you for tuning in. If you would like to hear more shows like this, consider becoming a sponsor. For more information, email info@allgospelthings.com or call our executive producer, Ricky Allen, at 760-712-9957.